And what is up, guys? Technicals Tinkers here, checking in on the 3D print operation for today. So I own a business that has nothing to do with 3D printing, but I've been interested in 3D printing. I don't know much about it. I'm learning a lot as I go. I'm just diving in head first. So I'm printing a lot of different things from the various areas of 3D printing, functional, art, etc. I make a lot of mistakes. This is just exhibition, so join me in this process. Maybe you'll learn something, but hopefully you can teach me something. So I do a vlog every day, and usually I do a midday update and kick it over to my future self in the morning, but I'm doing it a little different today to see how it works out. I just uploaded today's vlog, so it's still early. It's like, I don't know, 5 a.m. or something like that. So I'm just gonna kind of, throughout the day, kind of chronicle what's been going on, and maybe it makes for a more interesting video, little pieces throughout the day instead of just two big segments of me yik-yakking. Right, so big D20 cube up here, doing one half. If you saw yesterday's video, you could see that the supports kind of gave out, and that's because they're just so high. I've had that happen before. So I'm retesting the other half over here, doing it with normal supports, and this is like the 4th or 5th attempt because on the slice it wasn't clean. The bottom of the model, right where it contacts the plate, was like just like a tippity tip. It wasn't really flat, so I had to go through, slice off a 1/4 millimeter, change some other things around, and put in these normal supports because I think these are going to hold up better than the organics because they join into one long thing. So hopefully throughout the day we can monitor this and make sure it's working out. But, you know, I don't know if this is kind of like something, you know, a theory that most people kind of subscribe to, but if, like, you know, if your first like 3 or 4 layers go down, then your success chance for the print like increases exponentially. It's all about having a good foundation. But as opposed to this, you know, good foundation, but still kind of cursed. Down here on the A1 doing the chute, the discharge chute for the P1P, 4th or 5th attempt on this. Tried it on the Soval, fail. Tried it on the A1, fail. Went back through, and the model was not, I mean, it was like a 1/10 of a millimeter, maybe like even more than that, less than that, off on the level of one of the segments. And it's like, I guess when people export the model, it does that. And so it was trying to print some brim or like some support, but then as the taper went on, it was just too short for it to try to do that. And so it wouldn't adhere, and it would cause it to fail. And then when the head would come around for the second pass, it would grab it, drag it across the plate, and screw up the print. So, you know, things like that, I'm grateful to kind of identify that. And, you know, as I go into my new modus operandi throughout the day, just going ahead and making sure that all the models are, you know, flat on a flat plane before I even try to print them. So we're going to give those things a few hours to just kind of print, and we'll check back in a little bit. And if you're not out doing your chores at 5 a.m. on a Sunday, it's really the best time to do it. There's no other humans to slow you down. Can't hear a damn thing. And look at this. Beautiful. Exquisite. All right, so checking in on things. We got some more of these chute segments out of the Soval successfully. All we had to do is lay it flat, and everything works out. So building our little chute here, I think I'll like this better. The inside looks a lot smoother than that downspout, so hopefully that will not cause any issue. And the thing we got the girl over here, but the thing I'm most interested in is the D20. I did a preemptive filament change before it got too low to run out, taking no risks this far along in the print. We've successfully connected the back. It bridged all together pretty good, so hopefully that seam is clean. But the surface finish looking good, looking real good all the way around. So hopefully the numbers come out nice. And yeah, at this point, the inside's screwed up, but on this one, I'm not doing any infill for the middle. The grade is soft enough to where it shouldn't cause an issue, even at a 0.28 layer height. So optimistic about this. It'll probably finish in the night. And this one's actually running a little faster. It said it'd only take a day. So hopefully they finish up close to together. And yeah, so we'll check in on it in a few hours. All right, and time for the midday update. So taking a look at things, everything's running swimmingly. Doing a lot of design work today. And it's kind of like, you know, I'm going kind of blind. Soval spitting out these sections for the discharge chute. Just fine, no issues there after, you know, setting the setting it correctly on the build plate. So very encouraging there that the Soval didn't, you know, endure or receive any sort of like damage inside the print head. Our girls here, they are getting up to the top section, so it's gonna slow down a little bit because there's a lot of colors over there. And finally, getting some traction on the Colt Python model. For that, let's check in on the D20 cube. I'm getting way up here. All right, so obviously, you know, as of yesterday, or as of the video yesterday, if you're seeing this now, the supports kind of failed, but it doesn't really matter too much because the overhang is gentle enough to where it's going to be able to support itself. Plus, I'm doing like, I don't need to do this many wall loops and this much infill. Certainly going to dial that down on future iterations, but I think it's like a 5% infill and like 4 wall loops because I wanted it heavy duty, because people, if they roll this around, I don't want them to have any sort of issue. And you know, I'll charge a lot for it because it's super big. So plenty of filament there, so it should go the distance, and seems to be running good. So that's there. And the second half over here with the standard supports seems to be doing okay. So hopefully just crossing our fingers on that one. And so down here doing the drum section of the Colt Python, and then over here we are doing actually a test. So I'll show you that real quick. All right, so over here on the slicer, you can see these are kind of like little sections of the bigger part of the model. And I did it this way because I put in recesses. You can see here, these are holes to receive a bolt. And so I put one on the top, one on the bottom. Did this one at like a 22-degree angle, and then the one that goes in over here it's just flat. It's just 0 degrees, so you can see it in there. And I kind of went back and forth quite a lot, measuring it out, trying to be as precise as possible. I did not modify the insert for the heat set, and so I'm gonna adjust that as necessary. I didn't want to print like a whole big section, full section before. I just did these so I could test it, because I feel like I'm not gonna hit it on the first try, and I didn't want to burn all that filament. So that should be done by morning. With basically the theory being is that I cut it off here before the drum, and what I did was I hollowed out the center of the drum and put a little post in there. That way I can print the drum separately, slide it on, and then, well, actually I can ship it separately. So the drum I can wrap up separately, and then when the customer gets it, they just slide the drum on that peg and then bolt this in place, and that way the drum will actually spin. I'll still be able to paint the bullets inside. They'll be glued inside. And then on the back, I've actually changed up the slice to be kind of like where my finger is, kind of like diagonal like that. And I put dowel sections in there. So there's 2 recesses and a little dowel fitting. That'll be glued before I send it out. So overall, the total model will be, you know, from here back and then barrel forward. So I should be able to ship it in a much tighter box. Your mom has a tight box. Anyway, that's the 3D update for the Midday. Was that sensitive info? That's the Midday update for the 3D print stuff. I'm gonna throw it over to my future self tomorrow morning to see how it all worked out. All right, it is the next morning. Let's see how it all came out. I did check on this briefly. So our drum for our Colt Python came out just fine. It's undersized though. It's too small. So I gotta look at the scaling on there. And we got our 2 sections to test the bolt fastening. So we're gonna take that in the office here in a second and see if it works. Our character models are finished up. Got a plate of these girls here. Now, okay, I did it with layer height that's like I think maybe even 0.24, or maybe 0.2, I'm not sure. And I did not do adaptive layer height at all, just for the sake of speed. Because at a distance it looks fine. It's only when you get like real close that you start to notice these things. It came out pretty good. A little, almost stringy here, maybe a little too hot on this matte PLA. So I'm gonna pull the supports off of one of these to see how that fared. That's a nice precarious spot. Let's not do that. Let's put these over here because I need to get on the step ladder to get up here to take a look at the D20 cubes, which are looking all right. So this first one didn't finish up. It's getting close though. This one, I think I'm running a little faster than this one because it looked like this one's way further along at this stage. But the numbers look crispy clean. The surface looks crispy clean. It looks like it might go the distance. So still crossing our fingers on that one. Over here on side number 2, much the same. A little, I don't know what this is. Looks like that might just fleck off. But overall, these supports seem to be working out pretty good. It's usually right after it gets to that lip where the supports touch it. I think after that, it may be a little smoother sailing from there. So things are looking good for the D20. Someone was saying in a comment, like, you have all these problems with D20. I never use supports. I never have problems. I mean, maybe you're using a different model. I really like this model because the other ones I've seen out there in the world or whatever, they have these really sharp corners. It's more of like a hard geometric D20. This one has like these soft corners. It's a little more rounded. The numbers are a little, I don't know, bubblier. It's like a non-serif, sort of in that kind of vibe numbers. So I really like this model and I really want to make it work. So that's why I'm optimistic about this two-halved approach. And then this, we still have to print the pipe and the lighter for her. So let's go pull the supports off and see how it looks. All right, and taking a look at the Colt Python model, it's this section, this is the actual size, this middle section here with the script. Someone was actually saying in a comment that 3D slicing software now has some kind of like spyware in it that detects if you're printing something PUP related and automatically reports you to the FBI. I think it would report to the ATF, but you know, I'd like to imagine, not saying anything about the efficiency of government agencies, but if that were true and they did any sort of investigation, that before they go and send a SWAT team to your house, I'd imagine that they'd probably look online first. So I'm being very transparent about this. Don't print pew-pew related stuff that actually is for pew-pewing. This is an art model. This is plastic. So plus I imagine that every 3-letter agency in the world is already up everybody's ass anyway. So just going on that assumption that they're already looking, I'm being pretty transparent about it. I'm making plastic models here. Anyway, wanted to test this out. This is the forward section of the barrel. This is the section of the middle. And so I mated them together like so. It goes like this. This is just a primitive I put in place to hold these parts together at the right angle. So it would go together like this. And hopefully this little screw hole I made is sufficiently sized. I made it about 1/4 millimeter larger. And of course, because I have a shitty printer, it's not large enough. And so that's why you print little smaller versions first. So the hole that I made it with I think an 8 millimeter sort of top part that holds the head of the bolt, and then an 8 millimeter shaft, and it's a 40 millimeter screw or bolt. But I guess when I angled it and dropped it down in, it didn't quite make it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make this whole part deeper, and that will give me, I figure I only need probably about, probably say like 7 millimeters. I'd have to look at these little heat set standoffs that I got. So the standoffs are like 8 millimeters. And so this is the receiver port, which that's a sufficient pilot hole probably. So I'll just do a heat set into there. I go to print this, I'm gonna print the bottom shell layers really thick because I want like a big thick layer of plastic in which this heat set can sink into, because I don't want just like, solid and there's nothing behind it for this to like bond with. So I really need to make sure that that the bottom shell layers are at least this thick. So gonna work on that. Let's pop the supports off our girl here and see how she came out. These are just like default settings, because if you remember, of course it comes off perfectly. Back when I was doing my character models and really featuring it, having all these problems with support settings back and forth, and I was like, just go back to basics. So default supports pops off like butter, like nothing. Now it could be that other model, because that other model I was doing, the devil girl, had like a lot of overhang areas and where it was like tightly concentrated. Probably might have some issues here on her fingers. Fingers are very thin. I should probably watch what I'm doing versus watching the camera, but came right off. Now this heavy layer height, I think it makes it a little more forgiving, but something that no one ever mentioned, which I Googled and it was like, oh yeah, that's kind of a common thing is that your top Z distance should be based on your layer height. And I only thought about that a couple days ago. I'm like, it seems like when I have this really fine layer heights and a bigger top Z distance, it screws up. Or if I have a really small Z distance and a normal layer height, it screws up. And so is there a relationship between the two of them? I'm like, yeah, that would make sense. So that's what I've done. This is the second attempt doing something like that, and it seems to work out. And no one ever mentioned that to me, but I guess it's just like a common knowledge thing. I need to torch it or heat gun it. I like using the torch. It's a little more badass to me. But that tall layer height certainly diminishes some of the detail, but at a distance, you can't tell at a distance. I don't know, you're in 4K, so I should bring it back here. See, you can't even tell. The supports came off like a dream. Now the surface, some of the bottom surface where the supports are, where the overhangs are, leaves a little something to be desired. So maybe that's an inside outside sort of thing to make sure that that's on. But I'm gonna have to check that. But I think Bamboo defaults to inside outside, which is how it should be. But overall, looks pretty good. So I'm gonna print the pipe version, the pipes that go with these, and then I'll probably print a very, very large version for like the collection, or just to put on the Etsy or something like that, just like an impressive version, because selling these for 40 bucks, that's all well and good. I'd rather print a big one and sell it for like 200 bucks. Will I get that? I don't know, but I'd rather just kind of have it on there, and if someone wants to buy it and they come along and do it, that's great, because I don't know that these kind of models are really great for volume-based printing, because number one, there's not a lot of market interest, and number two, they just take for damn ever. So for today, going to continue working on the heat set for the Colt Python. Eager to get that listed on the Etsy. Got the new green Glock, the replacement, back in stock, so putting that on there. I saw it already. It still had eight people still have it on their cart, so maybe someone will buy it. Working on another few things, got some chores to do, but other than that, gonna keep pounding. Let me know what you're working on in the comments below. Be sure to like the video and subscribe for more content like this. I'm The Technicals. See you next time.